My first instrument was the piano. Uh, uh, I come from a family of five. I'm the youngest. And everyone was required to study the piano. Two brothers and two sisters. Everyone plays the piano. But myself and my oldest brother, Bill, who was a tenor saxophonist, we're the only ones who became professional musicians. In terms of formal education, there wasn't a lot. In terms of jazz, I mean, I studied classical piano from the age of 6 until I was 12. And one of my teachers was actually the sister of Ray Bryant, Vera. It was the mother of Kevin and Robin Eubanks and Dwayne Eubanks. Of course, they weren't around then. But she was one of my first teachers. No, jazz, who introduced me to jazz was actually my brother, because there were always records around the house, you know, old 78 records. So he had a pretty nice collection of 78s with Charlie Parker, Fats Navarro, Dexter Gordon, Wardell Gray, people like that. So I listened to all those records. And plus Philly had really great radio stations, jazz radio stations, 24 hours. So that was also part of my musical upbringing. There weren't, in terms of professional musicians in my neighborhood, there weren't a lot. But uh, in the greater, I live in an area called North Philadelphia. In the greater North Philadelphia area, there were many musicians. I came up with Sonny Fortune. There were some others who didn't continue on, but people like Jimmy Vass was a saxophonist, and many others. A bass player named Don Moore. You know, so there were a lot of people that I played with during that time when I was coming up. Plus, there were a lot of clubs where local musicians could kind of hone their craft and have jam sessions, and there was a lot of that. An awful lot of that, you know, at the time. My first paid gig. Wow. Yeah, I do actually. My very first paid gig was a dance, what we used to call, it was called a cabaret. And that was the type of thing where you'd go and you play a dance, or, you know, you play a dance, and there would also be a show. Like there would be a singer, and there would be probably a comedian, and there would be also what we called, not stripteasers, we called them shake dancers, or interpretive dancers, but scantily clad. You know, so I was 14, that was my very first gig. It was at the Elks Lodge, Elks Hall in South Philadelphia. And my brother was also on the gig. He's the one who got me the gig. He was also on the gig. And at the time in Philly, they had a curfew. I was 14. So if you were under the age of, I think it was 16, you couldn't be out past 11 o'clock. So my father actually came and picked me up, you know, from the gig. I don't think he really wanted to do that, but, you know, but, so that was my very first paid gig. I think I made $25 maybe, something like that.
Did your brother make more?
I don't know. I never asked him.
That's a lot of money, though, back
Yeah, back
then,
then.
and for a 14-year-old kid, $25.
Yeah, this was 1950. This gig was in 1956, 57. Yeah.
Was out here first.
What drew me out of Philadelphia was just New York. My brother, Bill, he preceded me. He went to New York maybe 4 or 5 years before me. So one day, I had a friend who was a drummer. We decided, well, let's go to New York and visit my brother. So it was summertime, and we took a bus up. And at the time, he lived in the East Village, East 6th Street. which is a very, very famous street now because it's a block where all the Indian restaurants are. But anyway, we went over to see him and hung out with him for a little bit. And then we said, well, my friend Jerry said, let's walk up to Birdland. Of course, not really realizing how far it was. But we walked up to Birdland, 52nd and Broadway, and there was so much to see, you know, and then the fact that around midnight, there were traffic jams. That didn't happen in Philadelphia. At midnight, there was nothing, you know. So and as soon as we got there, I don't remember who we heard, but I mean, it was just exciting. I remember seeing Kenny Barron in the club, and I think Max Roach hanging out. So I said, yeah, I'm moving here. I mean, that was it. I'm moving here. So I moved. That was 1960. In '61, I moved to New York. Tell me when.
You're ready.
Okay.
You're ready.
Kenny Barron.